You're listening to the Mackay Safety Our Clients podcast, brought to you by 4PS Software and the Bullion Group. You can find out more about safety compliance and safety management and the implementation of systems, independent audits and incident investigations by going to mackaysafety.com.au.
Welcome to the Mackay Safety Our Clients podcast, brought to you by 4PS Software and the Bullion Group. I'm your host, Kieran Moran. The Mackay Safety Our Clients podcast is designed to assist businesses become safe, as we believe safety forms the foundation for a successful and accountable business. Mackay Safety's clients span all industries, including mining, construction, rail, ports and engineering, and range from small to medium enterprises to major multinational corporations. It's our goal for these podcasts to not only assist you with implementing safety systems and procedures, but through listening to our clients' stories, understand the importance of safety within your own business and how you can make everyone involved, including your staff and your clients, safe. On this episode of the Mackay Safety Our Clients podcast, we have Jason Kelly, Managing Director and owner of Mackay Conveyor Equipment. Mackay Conveyor Equipment is an award-winning design and development company producing cutting-edge conveyor systems and belting handling products that provide workable solutions to clients with large-scale material handling needs, such as the mining and sugar industries. Jason's founded the company in 2010, which currently employ more than 30 people, including 3 apprentices, who are all Mackay locals with a workshop based in Paget. Welcome to the podcast, Jason.
Thank you.
Well, I do have to start off here a little bit before we get into just yourself, but give us a little bit of an understanding about Mackay Conveyor Equipment.
Basically, we started off just servicing the underground market. So 2010, things were a lot different than what they are now. There was a lot of work around and they couldn't find people to get things done. So there was a bit of an opportunity there where we started really just in a small shed, no equipment, just a couple of guys that knew what they were doing. And we took on some work and grew from there. And that's where sort of some of the seeds started to be sown about, maybe we can do some of this stuff a bit smarter and a bit better. And we started to design our own stuff.
So what sort of work was that?
Mainly underground main gate gear. So that's stuff that goes in and works alongside longwalls. So They typically go in and they're installed and operate for up to 2 years. Maybe it's probably a long panel, and then that gear is typically pulled out during the longwall move. The chocks go in town, get refurbished, and the conveyor gear will get refurbished as well before it goes back in to be installed for the next panel.
So as you said, they're starting in a shed, and you saw the opportunity. So just give us an idea of what the market was back then. Obviously, there wasn't either people doing it well, or there wasn't too many of them.
Oh, look, there was a lot of good work around at the time, and then without sort of naming too many names, the company that I was working through prior, there was some change of ownership and change of direction, and it created a bit of a void in the local market, and that's where the opportunity sort of presented, I guess. But it's very cyclic, as everyone understands, that's associated with the mining. It is ups and downs. So it was it was all honeymoons for the first sort of 12, 18 months, and then the price come off and the downturn came. So then there's a bit of a correction and things get tight. So that cycle just continues. And we were down 12 months ago, and now everything's happening again. So it's just you just ride the wave.
So with riding that wave and the period, like you said, so you started in 2010, and it was towards the end of a little bit of the mining boom, I suppose, in relation to equipment and the met sector and so forth at that time, and it started to slow down a bit. Did that give you time to develop the business any further?
Well, not really. I mean, when you're a fairly small operation, you always seem to be busy. You're either really chasing work, so you're doing whatever you can to win the work, and then when you win the work, you're doing whatever you can to sort of make sure that gets done properly and on time. So it's always a balance. You're always looking at something. There's always some part of the business that needs some assistance, and rightly or wrongly, that's where I always seem to find myself trying to get in and help. So I've never actually been at a point where I think that I've stood back and said, right, I'm going to take a month out and really focus on the business. I'm kind of in it all the time. So yeah, we certainly questioned strategy and talked about that and engaged plenty of consultants to run this stuff by. But you kind of need to be fairly nimble, I think, for our size business, because if you have all your eggs in one basket, it can quickly turn on you.
Yeah, it certainly can, and it's good business advice in respect to. I was only having that conversation the other day, and putting all the eggs in one basket. You've got to make sure that you diversify. And so, okay, we get to around about 2013, 14, 15. What was happening in the business then?
We've moved a few times. I had a business partner in the beginning as well, and my dates are not real good, but I reckon it'd be around about that time that things were really tight, and we sort of got to a fork in the road there. It was either we pack up, or one of us needs to sort of continue. I wasn't prepared to let go at that point, rightly or wrongly. I was determined that I hadn't really given it my best. So I made an offer to my partner there and, decided to go it alone and keep attacking.
And how did you do that? So I suppose a little bit here. Explain to me some of the equipment that you do work with and what you do build in relation to conveyors and so forth. I'm a layman within the game, but just explain a little bit about all that.
I wanted to really try and demonstrate our capability. So we're competing against companies that are huge by comparison. They've got products and people that have been involved, very well connected for a long time. So I wanted to try and do something that was going to catch people's imagination, for want of a better word.
Yep.
But the idea of it really was to just demonstrate that we had the capability to do things differently, and whilst they may not want to purchase that particular product, it would give them a good indication of the capability that we have. And since then, I've only continued to develop that internal capability with specialised equipment to try and separate ourselves from others and the reliance on others.
Can you explain what that separation is?
Just with the some of the choices, I guess, I've made regarding equipment that we've purchased. So I haven't rushed out and bought really expensive high-end CNC machines that, there's probably at least half a dozen shops in Mackay that have got that stuff, because we're not really targeting that. I don't want to be a jobbing shop. The intention is that we design and build products, and we have our own internal capability to minimise our reliance on others. And when I say that is we've got the tooling and the equipment to be able to manufacture things from raw steel.
And so does that work for the business in relation to, like you said, you can actually get in there, you can actually work on the machines. If there's any issues, you can go in and fix those issues and so forth, and provide mechanical assistance to these companies?
Yes and no. I mean, it's more about having control over the lead times. So if we've got the internal capability and we've got a tight timeline to get something done for a client in a shutdown or whatever, we've got the equipment here. So it's just a labour. We can pull on a night shift, or we can work a weekend to try and get something done. We're not at the whim of someone else who's got a specialised piece of equipment that could potentially delay a project or not give us our work the priority that it requires for our client. That makes sense.
And also, so give us a little bit of idea of the, I've noticed on your website, for one thing, you've got S-Gear systems, but you've also got 3D modelling software as well that you use. Give us a little bit of idea how that works.
Look, the drafting's my background, but I'm an old AutoCAD 2D kind of guy.
Oh, yes.
But we use the SolidWorks here, which is a 3D system. It's completely different in the way that it's used compared to a traditional, in layman's terms, I guess. AutoCAD used in its traditional form is really just an electronic version of how you would draw things on the board like the old days. The way that the SolidWorks is used, it's a completely different concept, and the models it produces and the flexibility it can give you is outstanding. I still think it's horses for courses, and there's some things that we spend way too much time designing in the 3D software to a point where it'll take more time to draw than it takes to make. But that's probably the grumpy business owner coming out of me. But the end product, and it is the expectation now that the clients want to see 3D drawings. They want to be able to spin them around, have a look at them, and try and, pick up any potential issues or problems that they can foresee early on in the process, which is a win for everyone, because there is nothing worse than building something new, getting it in the middle of your shop, and then having to cut and shark and rework and stuff. It just takes a lot of time and costs people a lot of money.
I suspect over the time that you've also seen, with the past decade, a lot of changes in relation to the conveying industry and so forth, and especially the product that it's now carrying. And as I said at the start of this program, in relation to coal and sugar is one of the main areas that you work in. But if I can remember correctly, just something I heard or read just over the last few months is in relation to the technology of waste and so forth, of waste capture from conveyor belts and also suppression of dust. Is that something that you're working with?
Look, the dust one's been around for a few years now, and I'll try and say the word, the silicosis. I don't know if that's right. I'm not real good at that stuff.
Just about right, I think,
yeah. With the inhalation of the dust and the disease that causes, there's been a real push on that. And I think it's probably been like in the surface mining at the ports and everything, because it is seen and it's more visual. It's probably been more front of mind. But in the underground environment, it is a bit harder to notice right there. And then when you've come out from underground that it is been, because you'll have a dirty face mask, or there is dust around. So over the last few years, there's definitely been more focus on transfer points having a lot more closed in, confined, like really trying to hone the dust and confine it to a smaller area that is then controlled with sprays to just mitigate that exposure to people. I guess the proof will be in the pudding, how that all rolls out over the coming years, but there definitely has been a lot more focus on it over the last probably, I was going to say 3 years, so probably 5 years. Things sort of creep up on me, but a lot more focus, and it's considered in the scope of work at the front end, where it probably wasn't as prevalent years ago.
Okay, just earlier you said in one of your earlier lives, or your original, with the drafts person. So I'm going to go back. We're going to go back a few years, of course, here. For those that don't know, when I am speaking to guests on this program, of course, I ask them if they could send me a little bit of a bio. Now, Jason has sent me one a little bit different sometimes than others, and he starts off here, he's going, my professional career started in a not so professional manner by only completing the first year of civil engineering degree at RMIT in Victoria, and then that was before taking a job as a draft person. So how did you get into it all, I suppose, in that respect?
Drafting, I was playing football, and the trainer that was there giving me a rub down one night after training was telling me that where he worked and that they were looking for a drafts person, and then my ears kind of pricked up because I really enjoyed the tech drawing at school. I went to a technical college for school, and I really enjoyed that. It wasn't on the computer, it was just all on the boards, but I really enjoyed it. And I was sort of travelling back from Melbourne to play football when I was at uni, and I really didn't enjoy it. I think I was too young and immature and didn't know really what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I decided to defer uni, like a lot of people that say that defer word, just never went back and got started in the drafting, and went from there.
And as it's got here as well, you moved into project management. And is that how you got into the business itself? It seems, you're into the same thing, because I get there's a lot of design within the work that you do, but project management as well. But how did you actually get into this type of work with conveyors?
I just applied for a job as a project manager, probably It'll be 16, 17 years ago now. Did 3 years with that company before things sort of got changed around. And then, had a start. So project management is fairly versatile. I mean, it's all about timelines, budgets and quality. And those principles can be applied to most things. And I thought I knew a fair bit before starting business, but I think I learned plenty of lessons every day. Things, the differences between running a project and running a business, they're leap years apart.
And speaking of that, I suppose within relation to project management, and as you just said then, leaps years apart. You get into a business a lot of the times and the things that you love doing, but then you get caught up with all the other processes and, as you said there, quality assurances and so forth as well. And I do believe you are using the 4PS system for the 4P mobile from Mackay Safety. And how is that helping your business in capturing and managing the process side of the business?
Look, we use it daily, and it's more. We'll use it for a couple of things. One's for the statutory or compliance type things. So we use it for our pre-starts on our vehicles, forklifts, and the like. The guys use it for their Take 5s, and we use it for pretty much all our standard operation type forms and checklists. So for our pulleys as part of our core business, we're either making them or repairing them. We'll pull them apart, and if we've got a shaft there, we might measure a shaft in 16 places, and the guys will input the data that they've measured in the 16 places, and the app's been pre-programmed to advise whether that journal is going to pass. When I say pass, it's within tolerance, or fail, it's outside tolerance. It prompts for photos, puts everything in a consistent format so that you've got a consistent, presentable report that we can send on to our client without having to pay someone to sit there and manipulate photos and data or copy handwritten notes from the workshop floor. We've got it all pre-populated. It's a never-ending exercise, but we've had standardised notations that the guys select from drop-down boxes, so that you're reducing spelling mistakes, differences of jargon, or you've just got a consistent report that everyone understands and can read, and it just gives me some comfort that we've got a better chance of getting it right. And look, the reason that we went there is we had a system. It was all manual, had the same information on it, but it was relying on the human to circle the right box. And I had a conveyor pulley where we measured the bore. They measured it correctly. It was outside tolerance, but they circled that it was passed. And it went through, the pulley was repaired, and it failed, 12 months later, and we had to do a warranty on it. And when we investigated it, it's because we'd done 99% of the work right. We identified the problem, but we circled the wrong box, and then that just flowed through. It was never repaired. With the app, the way we've got it now, if they type in that dimension that they've measured, the app highlights the fact that it's failed. So we're trying to build in those features where the human element can't cost us money, I guess, is the reality. I mean, the client would have paid for us to fix it if we had told him we'd fixed it. But we told him that it was okay, which, it's crazy. So that was the driver of the forms and getting that stuff onto tablets where the technology can sort of help with eliminating those errors.
So, Mick and his team, they do, and they do works for a number of different companies and so forth, and at 4PS and also Mackay Safety, of course. But to actually come in, what was the process for you like in being able to come in to design something, the app specifically, for you to be able to go through this process side of your business on an app, but actually design it specifically for your business only?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. Like, I've known Mick for quite a while, and we've been to lots of different trade shows and all this sort of stuff. And I've had the idea in my head about this app for some time, but I couldn't find anyone that would be able to give me a price, or if they did, it scared the hell out of me.
Yep.
And in the end, Nick just said, "Well, I think 4PS will be able to do that for you." And I wasn't too sure, but in the end, he said, "Look, I'll do the first form for you and show you how it works," which he did. And that then became the basis of how we could use the original one that he put together for us. We use that as a bit of a template on how we could roll that through for everything. So kudos to him. He did the hard one first, which allowed us to understand how the whole process works. And from that one form that we had, it's probably 2 or 3 years ago now that we started. We've probably got a couple of hundred on there now, which has all sort of been, it's all morphed from that very first conversation when he actually showed us how it can work for us.
And how do you think that has helped also your staff? Now, as I started at, you've got around about 30 plus staff members there. So to be able to, as you said, so straight away they can input this in, stops a lot of the paperwork and so forth. I would suspect that you would probably have more staff in some respects. But how has that, specifically helped them and also training them to use that app?
Oh, look, anyone that's got staff knows that when you try and introduce something new, there's a lot of resistance. There was a lot of resistance with this, mainly because they just couldn't visualise the positives for it.
Mm-hmm.
And like any of these sorts of things, the effort comes from the people, because you need them to be able to put in together the sequence, because if you're asking the wrong questions at the wrong time, it creates this frustration, and they've got to back and forth. So it's really important that you get everyone in a room and go through the sequence of how that they want that to flow. Yeah, we probably did that no short of 6 or 7 times, frustrating as anything. But once you've got the key questions down, it is relatively simple to, once you understand how the app works, it is very simple to re-sequence things. So step 7, instead of being step 7, you might need that to be step 18. You can get in and change that. You can do that yourself. You're not relying on an external IT guy that doesn't understand what you're trying to do. It is fairly simple. Like, we've all, based on that first form that Nick did for us, we've pretty much able to work out most things for ourselves. There are a couple of curly ones. We always come up with something that's a bit different, but Nick's got access to really good support team there that have been able to help us out with the curly ones. And when I say help us out, they probably just do things a little bit neater than what we would do. We're not coders, so we might find a way to get it done, but it might not be as pretty, where Nick can get his team to just tidy things up a little bit for us and make it look a bit more presentable.
And that's part of it as well. One of the things, of course, in my business as well, I've had a couple app developers approach us, well, probably more than a couple, and I've sat down with a couple here and there. And in the end, they didn't really explain much to me. And you sort of, one of the things just within my business is really explaining how the processes work, making sure that my client understands it and understands it properly. And mainly because I need them to be able to work it to get the best value from it. Is that the type of service that you get from Mackay Safety?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if anyone that's been through the process, I'll probably use a website as an example. If anyone's been through that process, it's painful, right? Because you can sign up with whoever you like, but at the end of the day, they want the information from you. You've got to provide them the photos. You've got to provide them the information. So you might as well just do it yourself. And it's a bit like this with the app development, I reckon. You know what you need. What Nick does, and with his software, is so user friendly. It empowers you to be able to do it yourself. So I think, but they're there to ring. I don't think I rang Nick for a technical question on it for 12, 18 months, but I was ringing him a couple of times a day when we were really trying to get it going. But once you understand it, it's in there, and you can just copy, modify, duplicate. Like we do our workshop audits on it, take the photos. It's very flexible, limited only by your imagination, I'd say, Kieran.
When you said you couldn't, you didn't give Mick a call for at least 12 months or something like that, I'm sure you actually bumped into him at a trade show or a conference because
absolutely.
He's
a man. Just wasn't those. Oh, how do I do this again? He was very patient with us in the early days.
Yeah, he's a man who does get around, definitely, and especially to a lot of the trade shows and so forth. Well, Jason, believe it or not, we are at the end of the Mackay Safety Our Clients podcast. So thank you very much for joining us. If people want to get in contact with you, how can they do that?
Look, they can just call the office or my mobile. I do answer it most of the time. But yeah, we're at Maggiolo Drive, right down the bottom end where the last shed on the left as you're heading towards Rocky. Pop in and say good day. More than happy to show you how we use the 4PS. We've got about 10 tablets on the floor, looking for a couple more at the moment actually. But like I said, it's very flexible. We use it for our sign in, sign out. And the probably the simplest, most powerful thing out of it, to be honest, is our photos. So we used to use cameras for all our jobs, and then cameras, anyone that's got workshops would understand what I'm saying here. You'd have cameras full of photos, you don't know where it belongs, and you'd have to pay someone to sort them out and put them in the job folder. We've got 4PS working with our SharePoint. The guys type in their job number, they take their photos with the tablet, and the photos get saved in SharePoint under the job. Just that real simple little explanation. It just saves so much time and money, and the fact that we know the guys have taken the photos, they've done 95% of the work, but that last 5% means that the first 95% is worth nothing, because if you can't find it, it's no good to you. So we use it for all those drawing markups. Take a photo of the drawing. What's the problem with the drawing? And then it gets sent an email straight to engineering to rectify. Like I said before, it's limited by your imagination. But if you've got an issue, I reckon you can use it. If you think about it, I think you could use the technology to really help you.
Well, thanks for that final. Thank you for that final plug at the end. Much appreciated.
Sorry, I just thought I didn't tell you about the photos and the drawings, but it's really powerful for us.
No, that's great to hear, and I'm glad that they've been able to solve a lot of your problems. So, but anyway, thank you very much for joining us today. Much appreciated for taking the time, Jason.
Oh, good on you. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Mackay Safety Our Clients podcast, brought to you by 4PS Software and the Bullion Group. To find out more, including how Mackay Safety can assist you with implementing work health and safety initiatives within your business, go to mackaysafety.com.au.